Beyond market and geographic considerations, the single next important question and consideration is whether to grow the business organically or through other means, acquiring brands, acquiring distribution channels, establishing a joint venture, developing a greenfield operation, or candidly franchising. But before the answer to that question really can be developed, you have to really begin to understand the market and the opportunity. And there's a series of questions that you should be asking yourself in order to make that determination. And those questions are, what does the market really look like in these emerging markets? What is the growth opportunity? What does the existing competitive environment look like? Because these are large countries with very large populations in many cases, we need to understand which cities we should establish ourselves and our presence in first, and the priorities of that city or cluster innovation, if you will. And to do that, and once we begin to have that information, then we can begin to develop the business case, which will help us answer what is the best way to grow this business beyond organic means.
Many companies are looking at mergers and acquisitions as a way to fuel that growth, to find those growth opportunities. And what they're searching for through M&A can be expansion into new markets globally, but at the same time can be closer to home, just access to new channels or access to new products or ways to acquire products that they feel are going to succeed in the market going forward and that they are not able to produce and develop internally as quickly as they could through an acquisition.
These companies need to recognize that the decision to expand into international markets is not a straightforward one, and it's highly complex. And there's a couple of rules of thumb. Number one, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to expanding internationally. Companies need to understand and take a pulse on their organization readiness to expand overseas. They need to make sure they have an understanding of the cultural nuances and drivers, because cultural nuances and drivers will impact just about every aspect to an international expansion effort. And then they need to determine the strategies and the investments levels that they're comfortable with.
To think through up front what the strategy is, what you're trying to achieve, and ultimately how you're going to be able to operate that company successfully is a process that's more robust than most acquirers went through 5-10 years ago, when certainly the economic situation was different. Having a focused team that can help a client through fundamentally the 3 stages of an acquisition, the strategy that's so critical to get set up front so that you are being proactive and looking for the right opportunity that you can be successful at. Then through actually executing the transaction, due diligence, and getting a deal to closing is a critical second large part of an M&A process. But then finally, what ultimately proves whether an acquisition is going to be successful or not is that after the acquisition stage, the integration stage, working with our clients to help them achieve their objectives in that strategy. In other words, to operate the company after the acquisition in a manner that's going to achieve their objectives, whether it be channel access, customer access, and certainly part of that, profitability and cash flow and being able to be financially successful. When you're in a new market, there are going to be challenges and dynamics that, if you're not familiar with that marketplace, are going to be new to you, whether they're issues with labor and how that operates in a certain country, or whether it's more fundamental to the tax structure and the ability to move cash between different countries. That's why it's important to have a merger integration plan in place that can foresee what the key points are to execute on after the acquisition is done to be successful in that marketplace. And it varies from country to country.
We believe, and our experience at Grant Thornton has shown, that those companies who adopt a more strategic yet customized and nimble approach to their international expansion efforts are far more likely to realize successful international expansion efforts long term.
And I think with that, companies in this industry, like most industries and clients we work with, that growth is really hard to achieve in this economy, and certainly trying to find the place in the market of tomorrow that's going to be successful is challenging because of the speed at which those markets change. But as we work with our clients, certainly we're seeing dynamic companies. That's how they rise to those challenges to find those opportunities. Because certainly, while it's harder in most respects, the opportunities are there for those that can navigate all the trouble that it takes to get to that point.